Well, it's great to have you with us. Another edition of Death, Taxes, and Duval. A blistering hot week here during training camp. My goodness, maybe the hottest it has been in quite some time. Then again, they're all hot. Rick Bull along with Hayes Carline. First things first, I'm going to have a sip of water. You thank our sponsor.
I'll do it. We really appreciate Spickelmier Insurance Agency. John's a good friend of mine. I've known him since high school. He was an outstanding football player, played at Notre Dame, and is where you need to be for car insurance. And again, you've got nothing to lose. Just have him look at your policy. And John will either be able to save you money or he won't be able to save you money. But why wouldn't you at least give him the chance to do that? You can reach Spickelmier Insurance Agency at 471-7155. Again, Spickelmier Insurance Agency. And yes, it was hot. I'm going to have some water now, too, because I would have gone into the cooling tent, Rick, but it was full.
Yeah,
there was no vacancy.
I saw 7 or 8 guys in there, more on the sideline. Heat exhaustion, just being overheated in general. Was certainly the deal Wednesday. As well, Monday night, more hitting, a lively practice where reports say that the defense was better. But let's begin with the game, just a couple of minutes worth this past Friday night. And, you know, I've talked about it the entire offseason, but Jacksonville came in averaging 7.6 points in the first half, 2.8 in the first quarter. The first team offense got 3 drives, 2 field goals, and a touchdown. So that is an incredible improvement if you base it on what's happening around here.
And no doubt about it, Rick. And it was great to see the defense contribute to that as well, because really 3 of the points were completely on the defense. Mm-hmm. Jenkins forces the fumble, Griffin recovers it. Unfortunately, the offense doesn't do anything with the ball, but the defense put them in a position where, okay, that's fine. You go 3 and out, but you send the kicker in, and at least you get something out of it. But yeah, I thought offensively very crisp. It was great, and again, no Christian Kirk either.
Nope.
So it was good to see that the offense was able to play well without him. And exciting. The 32-yarder to Zay Jones right out of the gate. He continues to impress. Travis Etienne breaks a nice 12-yarder to kind of start things off. It was really good to see, and I think they needed it. I mean, they needed some reinforcement on what we're doing is going to work, and I think you saw that. Doug Peterson certainly put him in a great schematic advantage on the 4th and 1 touchdown.
Listen, it just feels like it's a totally different team. This is an improved roster, but you can also look at the scheme and the fact that they're going to try to do their best to tailor-make this offense based on the talent that they do have. So, that is promising. Outside of that 12-yard run by Travis Etienne, that was basically it. I mean, the starters did not play in game number 1. They struggled to run the ball. Outside of that particular play with Etienne, they struggled again to run the ball. Monday night, I was on air. I know you were out there live hitting. Was told once again, struggling to run the football. James Robinson, today we saw him involved in some team activity. He had the red penny on, no contact, but still there was some bumps and some things happening there in the trench. This is a concern. We don't know, is Travis Etienne at this level a guy who can run between the tackles? Obviously, getting James Robinson back is going to be huge for this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they have both backs available, and I think they will by the time we get to the opener, September 11th at Washington, but they are going to have to really feed off of each other. I mean, I think Etienne is going to get the bulk of the carries, but you're right. I mean, when it's short yardage or you just want to, send a message to the defense and run it up the gut, I think Etienne can do it. I'm not ready to say that he can't, but certainly we know James Robinson can. I mean, he averaged, 4.7 yards a carry last year on an atrocious offense. So he's not going to give you the 25, or certainly the 75-yarder, but he is going to keep you in good down and distance situations. So good to see him, working back into it. And it's going to be interesting to see where this ground game goes. And I thought a big revelation today, because for the first time today, we saw Ben Barch running with the first team at left guard. Doug Peterson sort of hinted at that Monday before practice. He was asked about, the competition there, and he was like, well, it's really too close to call, which was I appreciate his candor, but it was a dead giveaway that Ben Barch is going to be the left guard.
Yeah.
Because how can he be in a dead heat and he's taken basically nothing with the first team? So he got a chance to do it today. Unfortunately for Ben, he had to leave a couple times because of heat. He was one of the guys that was really profoundly affected by it. So, but he was running with the starters, and that's where I think they're going to end up going into week one. So now Doug Peterson is doing this at the perfect time because now you have nearly a month to get that starting unit, if they don't have any attrition, really gelling going into the game against the Commanders.
I think the thought with this football team is that, unfortunately, they're a pass-first team. And in my world, I would like it to be 50-50. You look at what they did a year ago, 604 pass attempts, 392 rushing attempts. To me, everything changes if you can run. If you're able to do that at the line of scrimmage, it totally changes your entire philosophy of what you can do when it comes to passing the football. It's going to give you far more opportunities as far as some one-on-one situations, and then at that point, you trust Lawrence and the skill guys to move the ball. But to me, that remains the number one question. It is the offensive line. We're waiting on Devin Lloyd. You look at George Pickens, who they're going to see coming in this weekend for Pittsburgh. All along, I said I would have gone offensive line in the draft because I don't think you can build everything at once. I would have built this offense first around Trevor Lawrence and then made my way towards the defense. They didn't listen to me. With that said, I hope their draft selections are correct, but I'm going to stay with that, Hayes. For me, far and away, the number one question mark on this football team is the offensive line, and can they run that ball?
And they're going to get a great test Saturday night because the Steelers are going to come in and they're going to probably play their starters for the first half as well, if not into the third quarter. And that is a tremendous test for what they're going to do schematically, certainly the personnel that Pittsburgh has, and just their mentality of you're not going to run on us. That is going to be a nice challenge for the Jaguars. And I'm intrigued to see. I mean, frankly, I don't expect it to go overly well. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say if the Jaguars do well offensively, it's going to be that Trevor's able to get some things going through the air. Maybe Etienne's able to break one. But I think for the most part, it's going to be a difficult matchup for the Jaguars. Hope I'm wrong, but I'm with you. It's going to be a great test Saturday night for that offensive line because the Steelers are just – we don't know exactly how they're going to play it, but if it's similar to the approach that Doug Peterson is going to take, then we're going to see good on good, or at least the Jaguars version of it, for the first half, maybe into the third quarter, and that should give us a really strong data point in terms of where are these guys right now.
Yeah. Pittsburgh traditionally has a very good run defense. Last year, they were worst in the NFL when it came to stopping the run. So, they've made some moves to try to clean that up, obviously, including Miles Jack, who's there. They wait on Devin Bush, a former first-round pick. But when you have T.J. Watt and Cam Hayward and company, I mean, you're talking about all pros on that side of the football, not to mention in their secondary where you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. So, I think this is going to be a real good test for Jacksonville. We were told a week ago, 2 series, they got a third. Defense only took 9 snaps as far as the starters. So outside of the contain, the front 7 has basically played 9 plays in 2 games. How much do you expect the defense to play against a Pittsburgh team that is one of only 2 or 3 teams in the NFL that's trying to figure out who their quarterback is going to be?
Yeah, it's almost a reversal, I think, when you talk about that matchup, because it would be very disappointing if Pittsburgh comes in here and puts up, I think anything above 7 in the first half, because I do think you're going to see the defensive starts for the first half. I think Doug Peterson's committed to that on both sides of the ball. We can argue it over should you do it? Is it does the risk outweigh the reward? But it doesn't matter what we think. Doug Peterson's told us he's going to play him close to a half, if not a half. And I wouldn't think you bring the defense back out for the third quarter unless it's just been awful. But this is a matchup that, based on what we've seen from this defense in camp, they should. I mean, whether it's Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. Mm-hmm. George Pickens is having an outstanding camp, and I'm excited to see him, and Pittsburgh has some weapons. But, the Jaguars should really be able to handle the Pittsburgh offense where it is right now. And if they can't, that'll definitely be a concern for me.
I try not to overdo it during the preseason, but I'm always looking for trends, or I'm looking at things that are heading in a direction, in this case, a positive direction. We talked about the 13 points by the first-team offense the other night here against the Browns. 9 takeaways a year ago only 2 fumble recoveries. And you mentioned the play, Rayshon Jenkins, but just how fast Trayvon Walker was coming down the line of scrimmage as well. And to get a fumble like that with your first team defense when they only went out there and had 9 snaps, to me is incredibly encouraging. It's been a long time coming, but why not? This offense, and that's where all the attention's going to be. Why not get some takeaways? Give Trevor Lawrence in this offense some field position to work with. They did not have that a year ago.
It didn't happen at all. I mean, it was inexcusable. And again, we all kind of collectively locked in on the 14.9 points a game that the offense scored. But I mean, you can look at what they did this offseason, and the 9 takeaways were clearly a massive concern for Trent Baalke and Doug Peterson. And I do think they've added players that now, and we've yet to see Devin Lloyd, but I'm going to count him because I think he's going to be a guy that generates turnovers when he's healthy. But you look at the guys that they have added that I think are going to be guys that can play above the X's and O's and turn the ball over. Trayvon Walker absolutely is going to be able to do it. I think Josh Allen can do it. I think Devin Lloyd's going to be able to do it. Tyson Campbell and Andre Sisco are having outstanding camps. I think they're going to be able to do it. Shaq Griffin should have had 4 or 5 last year.
Yeah.
And he's gone to a Pro Bowl. He can do it. So, I mean, that's 6 guys. And it's not to say Roy Robertson Harris can't force a fumble. Devon Hamilton couldn't force a fumble. The Smoot obviously is a guy that can give you that. Maybe Muma in a limited role. Aluakan, we know more for being the reigning leading tackler. Doesn't seem like much of a playmaker when you look at his stats, but again, he's an ascending player. Maybe he's able to make that happen with more around him. But I think they've got at least 6 guys defensively, and that's not counting Darius Williams, who can do it. We just haven't seen it because he hasn't been cleared. But now you've got several guys that if they are generating a turnover in a game, it wouldn't be like, wow, wasn't expecting that. And again, it's not. It's obviously it's way too early, but I'm not trying to sell it that they're the 2017 Jaguars, but could they be a poor man's version of it? Mm-hmm. I don't think it would be that surprising.
Depth all of a sudden is an issue. And for the record, that's not the worst thing, because if we were talking about the starting 22, then that would really be a question. But, there was a report out earlier in the week that Jacksonville was one of 3 teams that was really interested in Danny Shelton. He ended up going to Kansas City. I got to believe if he came here, one of 2 guys goes. It's either Malcolm Brown or it's Jay Tufele. Faley, to me, has had a much better camp. I haven't seen anything at all out of Malcolm Brown. Now, he was hurt during OTAs and didn't really give it a go during minicamp. But I'm just wondering here, because I got 49 of 53 on my final cut that I think are absolute solid rocks. At one point, I had 50. I have now removed Malcolm Brown off that list. I think there's a possibility right there. One guy whose job is not secure.
It's really interesting with Malcolm Brown because, there just doesn't seem to be any fire to Malcolm Brown anymore. It just doesn't seem like there's an urgency there. And to your point, he's too talented for us to be this deep into training camp, and we can't think of a single play he's made.
Exactly.
And so
where Tufele has made plays.
And so that tells me, is the desire there? Where is Malcolm Brown in terms of his career? Are we 2 weeks away from, Malcolm Brown just saying, I've had enough? It feels that way. So I'm with you. If I had to cut it to 53 or project who's going to be on the 53, I can't have him on it, because with each passing day, he looks more and more like a guy that's been in this league a long time, that's made a really good living, and the desire just may not be there anymore. And maybe I'm off base on that, but that's the kind he feels like a veteran that maybe is not as engaged as you have to be to play at this level. He
was a first-round draft pick in 2015, final pick of the draft by the Patriots. He won 2 Super Bowls, then went over to New Orleans in the Drew Brees era, Sean Payton era, very competitive team once again. To see what happened around here, last year, just how incredibly disappointing that was. And then you're here in the dog days and you're going through camp where it's incredibly hot. I think that's a fair question. I think certain players at certain times just they lose that juice. They lose that willingness to compete. And if the feeling is, hey, this is not a winning team and I've made my money, in some aspects, you can understand why that would be the case.
Yeah, and so if I think that's why you saw the interest in Shelton. I think it's going to be there for. I mean, I will be stunned if they don't add a defensive tackle through waivers.
Mm-hmm.
And Shelton's a guy that I think he wouldn't be subject to waivers. He's a vested veteran, but any vested veteran that comes available, certainly any guy where the Jaguars have the first right of refusal on the waiver wire, I think they're going to add a guy because I think that, and that's a hard spot to try and find a rotational guy because obviously those guys are at such a priority. But I don't think there's any doubt the Jaguars are going to have to add there.
Yeah, I think they'll add there. I think they'll add at safety. I do wonder about Daniel Thomas, a guy that I have been just overly optimistic about. He missed 2 huge tackles on Friday night. One just absolutely stonewalled and ended up being a significant gain. That can't happen. Rudy Ford's a gunner. He's a great special teams guy. Is he part of the rotation there at safety? So, that makes you wonder a little bit. Much better performance, I thought, with the off-the-ball linebackers. Certainly Chad Muma. You talk about night and day, game 1 to game 2. That was very encouraging to see.
It was. And in talking to Chad after the game, I mean, he was beaming. I mean, he's a nice guy anyway, but he was radiating excitement. I mean, I think you got a sense from Chad Muma of the Raiders game was probably like he had a week of like, can I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And against Cleveland, he got the realization of absolutely I can do this. I can play at this level, and that was sort of the vibe he was giving off in the locker room post game. Not that he was like patting himself on the back or anything, but it was just in talking to him, there just felt like a sense of euphoria and relief.
Right.
Like, I know I played well tonight. I know when I go back and watch this, I'm going to be happy with what I saw. And frankly, against the Raiders, he looked like he was not even cut out for this level of football.
No.
So it was great to see. And so that was a massive positive step for the Jaguars and certainly for individually for Chad. And yeah, it'll be, look, I mean, I'd love to see Devin Lloyd out there Saturday night, but I mean, we're now at Wednesday. And he hasn't done enough to really be ready for that. So I would kind of be surprised if we saw him now.
Yeah.
And, then if you're Doug Peterson, the question becomes, do you play him against Atlanta? I almost think you have to, because you don't want the same thing to happen to Devin that happened to Muma in week 1, where he's out there against Washington and people are like, what's he doing? He does. I mean, he looks lost. So, again, we'll get to, how Doug's going to approach the final preseason game next week. But Devin Lloyd is a player, as we peek a little ahead, he may have to play against Atlanta to have that Muma game of this is what it's like so that he can be effective against Washington. Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. I didn't talk with Chad Muma after the game this past Friday night. I did a week ago back in Canton. He said his head was spinning. He was thinking too much. It really felt like to me watching it that he was playing football. He was trusting his instincts. And tell you what, the way he read keys and was able to move down the line of scrimmage, both in coverage as well as getting after running backs, was very promising. All right, Monday night, again, I was on air. You were there, and we just wrapped up practice here on Wednesday. Again, the inconsistency with this football team when it comes to hanging on to the ball. It is, they had 25 drops a year ago. Now, I looked at it. It went from 9 to 33. The best in the league was 9. The worst in the league was 33. It's kind of like errors in baseball. No matter what you do, there are going to be drops for every team. But when you win 3 ball games, man, you cannot afford to drop these balls, particularly on third down. We saw one today with Christian Kirk, 25 yards downfield.
Can't have it.
Trevor Lawrence hit him right in the numbers.
Right in the chest.
I mean, it was a perfect pass, and it was a drop.
It might be the worst drop of camp.
Right. Now, from what I understand, Ingram had a couple again on Monday night, and that's the book on him. Obviously, they're preaching it, but it comes down to results.
Yeah, you're going to have drops from Ingram. It was the book on him coming out of New York, and we've seen it in camp. Now, I do think he's going to give you more good than bad, but you're going to have to accept a couple of things with Evan Ingram. He's not going to block, and even though Press Taylor praised him for that, but come on.
Right.
I mean, we've all seen him. He's not going to be able to block effectively at this level. And but I do think he'll give them enough explosive plays that it'll be worth, if it can be, the plays he isn't going to make. Christian Kirk, the drop today was really surprising. Now, these guys aren't robots. I understand that people make mistakes, but he'd had a really strong camp. That's the kind of play. Like, if you make that play in the middle of the third quarter, week one, that's a deflating play.
There's no doubt.
Like, this team can't have it. It's a young team, and that play has got to be made by Christian Kirk 99 times out of 100. So this is his one, and now he needs to make the other 99, because that's the challenge I think Doug Peterson's going to have with this group, is they are so young, and they can talk all about, to the guys that weren't here, the guys that have just gotten here a year, they can talk all about, hey, it's a new team, it's a new team. They know the history. They know the recent history. And if things go south, it's hard to be able to dig guys out of that trench and get them back in a positive frame of mind. It's going to be Doug Peterson's greatest challenge. So yeah, and drops are just momentum killers on game day. So it is a concern. I think at the end of the day, Christian will be good, Zay will be good. I haven't been really overly happy with Marvin Jones's camp.
No, it's been very, very boring camp.
Yeah,
he hadn't really stood out. I thought Chenault dropped the kick return today, which. See ya. I mean, seen enough. Okay. I mean, you can't drop kick returns.
Yeah.
But he made 2 grabs later in practice from Trevor that I thought were promising. That whole tight end situation, they're all gone after the year outside of Luke Farrell.
Welcome to Jacksonville. What's the Notre Dame kid's name? It's not
Michael Mayer.
Mayer.
Michael
Welcome
Mayer.
to Jacksonville.
Yeah, exactly. Manhurt's, his contract is up, Arnold's is up, and Engram got a 1-year show me. So, Luke Farrell put that ball on the carpet as well this past Friday night, something that absolutely cannot happen. All right, as we look towards Pittsburgh now, let's single out, a couple of things that we are really going to look for. We did talk an awful lot about the offensive line, but it deserves to be mentioned once again, because another opportunity here for Luke Fortner, who it feels like he's got that job. You talked about Barch, still trying to figure out the right tackle situation. I wanted to go to Walker Little simply because that would be year 2 of a 4-year rookie contract, and I think I've seen all I need to in Juwan Taylor. What are you looking for Friday night at right tackle or Saturday night?
Yeah, that right tackle battle is going to be enormous. I would tend to edge it back to Juwan. I've sort of hemmed on this, but I thought Walker Little probably didn't do enough when Juwan was out for that week. And Juwan, I think, has played pretty well. I tell you, Walker Little had a rep today that he is not going to want to watch on film. DeJuan Smoot nearly jokeled him. I mean, drove him back about 5 yards and would have planted him on his ass if they hadn't then ran into the offensive linemen that are just, waiting to go in. It was a really surprising rep for Walker Little. It was the most lopsided rep that I've seen in one-on-ones. I haven't seen them all, but it was the most lopsided rep that I've seen in the one-on-one. So it's just one snap. But again, something that if that happens in a game, Walker Little is falling into Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. And it was stunningly bad. And he had a couple other reps where I thought he held Trayvon Walker on another one of the one-on-ones. Trayvon went inside. So I'm with you. I mean, I would like to see it be Walker Little, but I don't know that he's done enough. And, Juwan Taylor just feels like he's hung around. And but I think it'll be fascinating to see how Doug plays it. I do think you have to make a call after Saturday night. After that, you should have plenty of film, plenty of evaluation for Doug and his staff to sit down and say, all right, who's our right tackle? We're now, once you get beyond this game Saturday night, it's all about Washington. I know you got the joint practices with Atlanta, but that should only be about honing your starting units. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's going to be Juwan Taylor, but it's still really, really close. Well,
whatever it is and whatever they decide, I'm with you here. When you get that opportunity to go head to head in those practices with Atlanta, you got to have your starting 5. If it's Barch and it's Taylor, or if it's Shatley and it's Little, or whatever the equation may be, pick your 5 and have them now get each and every rep. And all of a sudden I'm a little concerned. I mean, Will Richardson goes down. I'm looking at the backup interior offensive lineman, not named Shatley. I say that obviously under the impression that Barch will be the left guard, but I looked at guys like McDermott and some others, and I'm wondering, is there a journeyman out there? Is there someone who's going to get cut in a couple of weeks that you can go snatch up and make him kind of your swing center guard type that is a better option than what they have right now? I think, we look at the 5, and then if it is Shatley and Little is your backup 6 and 7, all right, I'll give you that. But what about 8 and 9?
Yeah, it's they've got to figure it out. I think one thing that's interesting, and again, contradicting last year with Urban Meyer, who knew nobody in the league, like this year, if a vested veteran gets cut and has his choice, do the Jaguars have a better chance? Because I agree with you, they're not going to be perceived as a team where you can ring chase.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be perceived as a spot where, okay, I like the head coach. It's a good environment. Maybe they know Doug from Philadelphia or Kansas City, or have a coach that's worked with Doug, have teammates that have worked with Doug. Like that could help the Jaguars if they are interested in adding a guy that isn't subject to waivers. So that is something to watch. But I think, Ethan Waugh met with the media today, who's Balky's lieutenant. And I asked him about having the number one priority in the waiver wire. And he was like, yeah, it's an advantage and things like that. I mean, I think they need to use it. Last year, they didn't use it. They claimed one guy on a pathetic roster.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the receiver, Tyron Johnson.
No Hands Johnson.
Yeah, exactly.
He beat Buster Brown,
right? Yeah,
in Canton,
That's
but
right.
No Hands Johnson
didn't do anything.
Couldn't locate the ball,
right? But I mean, I think 3 or 4 guys, could easily warrant a spot on the 53. I mean, you look at the rosters that like the Ravens have, the Bills have. Some of these rosters on these teams, they're 53 through 90 or 54 through 90. It's not bad.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, that's changed for me. I really thought going in the camp, you would not have an undrafted free agent make the team, rookie free agent make the team, and maybe add 1, possibly 2 once you cut down to 53. I've watched the latter part expand. As far as rookie undrafted guys, let me ask you this, and or maybe you think I've had too much to smoke, okay? They haven't shown Winningham at all.
Yeah.
Is this because he hasn't earned it, there hasn't been an opportunity, or is it because 3 of the 6 wide receivers did not play? They were injured. Winningham has looked the part in camp. Why showcase him for the other 31 teams? At this point, you're going to bury him, put him on the practice squad, and you know how these soft tissue injuries go. He'll be the first guy called up. What do you think?
It's a great point because we know that game is played in terms of how teams, view their long-term goal at the practice squad guys. They want to get on it. Yeah, if you put that guy out there and he goes 4 catches for 85 yards, there's a chance he's going to get claimed when you cut him. So yeah, I think so. I mean, I obviously from a rep standpoint, they've given a lot to Cotton and Jones. I don't see it. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And you're not going to be able, how many guys can they practice squad at receiver? Maybe like 2 at the most.
Right.
So
makes you wonder if they still want Austin because of the $230,000 guaranteed. But in today's NFL, that's crumbs.
Right, exactly. So
that's Graham Marsh money.
That's right. It's a great point that they might be looking at this guy and saying, this is a guy that we want to be able to sneak through waivers. So it'll be really interesting to see how they build the 53, build the practice squad. Unfortunately, Rick, we're not that far away from this. We're getting closer to the season with each passing day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, here we go. Are we ready? This is all my money. I got out of a mason jar today. I got 2 $100 bills, and I've got 75 ones underneath. If I was to lay that money down, and it's a 21-19 ball game, timeout, 3 seconds. Here comes Ryan Santoso to attempt a 46-yard game-winning field goal. I'm putting all my money on him to miss. What about you?
Yeah, it's he looked good today. This is what I'll say. I would say I would bet the way you're betting. I would bet that he would miss it because until you see guys make clutch kicks, it's just hard to have confidence in them. And I will say this. I think they're doing something interesting there with Santoso because so they waive injure Elliott Fry,
who they brought out first to kick.
Yeah. But then they don't sign a kicker. So I almost wonder, and Doug said Monday, he was like, we're not ready to give this, we're not ready to name him the starter, Santoso the starter. We need to see more. But it does feel like they're kind of giving him like the confidence boost of, all right, you're the only kicker here now. This is your job to win. So go win it and make sure we don't have to bring another kicker in here, that we're done with the churn. And I thought, I didn't watch every kick, but it seemed like he performed well today.
Yeah, he missed a couple. I was over in the other field where teams are going on, but it was a good day.
Yeah. So I still think there's going to be so many kickers that get cut. Is Ryan Santoso one of the best 32 kickers on planet Earth, which is what you have to be to kick at this level? I don't see that. I hope he makes it because I'm dreaming about seeing the Wildcat kicker formation and seeing him, press forward for a 2-yard gain on 4th and 1.
He's enormous. He could be a tight end.
He is a giant. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't have a lot of confidence yet, but I do wonder if what the Jaguars are doing is let's give him a week to be the only guy here and see if in the absence of competition, he steps up his game.
Hope I'm wrong. There's nothing not to like about him. But you talk about demoralizing. You use that word to talk about a drop. And, I think it was 2019 Houston, Gardner Minshew to Chris Conley on a 3rd and long, dropped it, took the really burst the balloon of the entire team. Can you imagine playing hard for 60 minutes and it's a 1-possession game and you got a chance to win it and you miss a field goal? What that would do to this team? I just think that's the position. And there's been success around here for really forever. Yeah. Lambeau never missed. Matthew Wright was 21 of 24 a year ago. So I hope it works. Right now, my confidence level is not there for Ryan Santoso, but I've been wrong before. I really do hope I'm wrong again, and he makes his kicks. Let's thank our sponsor.
Yeah, appreciate Spickelmier Insurance Agency. Give my buddy John a call at 471-7155. Again, we all have to have car insurance. It's just a fact of life, but we don't need to pay more than what we need to be paying. So call John, let him look over your policy, and let him just give you the feedback on, you've got a good policy. There's not much I can do here. Or, I can save you some money. Why wouldn't you do that? So again, Spickelmier Insurance Agency. Give my friend John a call, 471-7155.
All right, he's Hayes Carline, 3 to 6 each and every day. My name's Rick Ballou. I come on at 6 o'clock. You can get me for your comments, Ballou1010XL. Hayes?
Yeah, reach out to me on Twitter at Hayes Carline. We always appreciate the feedback.
There you go. We love it. Thank you to Graham Marsh as well. For Hayes, I'm Rick. Folks, we will talk with you next week right here on Death, Taxes, in Duval.